of A, if M is the midpoint of segment AB and B has coordinates 3, -5. It's going to help if you draw a picture, okay? So right above number 6, I'm going to draw a little line because I know I'm talking about line segments still. What are the two letters at the end of my segment? A and B. What is in the middle? M. So I'm going to put M right in the middle. And I'm going to put my coordinate point right there. I'm going to say this is -1, 2. And then I know one other coordinate point. I know B has coordinates 3, -5. So I'm going to say 3, -5. Now, the idea is I'm trying to find this coordinate over here. I'm just going to call it X and Y because it's going to have an X value and it's going to have a Y value. So using this same formula, we're going to use it a little bit different. Normally, we take both X endpoints, we add them together to find the middle. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm taking the endpoints, the X's. So I have X plus my other endpoint X, which is 3. I'm still dividing by 2, but this time I know what it should equal to. Where should the X end up in the middle? At what value? -1, because that is the X value of the midpoint. I'm going to write a separate equation for the Y. So I'm going to kind of put Y over here. So what is, I don't know my Y, the first Y, so I'm going to say Y plus, what's the other end point for Y? -5. Oh, I should put a minus. Since I'm adding a negative, technically it's just a minus sign, but I'm writing in pen. So if you just want to put a minus sign, you can put a minus sign. I'm dividing by 2. And where should it end up in the middle? 2. Now I have to solve each one of these equations individually. And you're like, oh my God, I hate my life. There's fractions. A fraction is fancy division. So how do we get rid of the denominator? Multiply it by 2 to both sides. Because fraction is fancy division, the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 2. I'm going to cross it out, and I'm going to multiply it by 2. That gets rid of this ugly fraction. Now I'm left with X plus 3 equals what? -2. And now it's a one-step equation. What do I have to do to both sides? Subtract 3. And so what's X equal to? -5. Good. We're going to do the same thing over here. I got to get rid of that ugly fraction. A fraction is fancy division. The opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 2, cross it out. What I do to one side, I got to do the other side of the equal sign. So multiply by 2 over here. Now I can bring down Y plus -5. So I'm just going to bring down Y minus 5 because I'm adding a negative, which is subtraction. 2 times 2 is 4. And then what do I got to do to both sides? Add 5. So plus 5, plus 5. So Y equals 9. And now remember, this is technically a coordinate point on a graph. So what is the answer as a coordinate? -5, 9. So that is the other endpoint, technically point A. Okay, so it's a little weird. It's a little wonky. Let's do number 7. Let's draw a picture. I'm going to use this open side space to draw my picture. So some of you will be able to do this without the pictures, but I'm always going to draw the pictures because it just helps you connect what are you even talking about, okay? So I have a little line. It says, find the coordinates of J if K is the midpoint of JL and L has the coordinates of -8, 6. So I know I have 3 points. I know I have a middle point. What are the two end letters? Perfect. J and L. In the middle is K because it says K is the midpoint. So K is in the middle. And then I'm just going to put my coordinates underneath my values so I can kind of visually see what's going on. K is at -5, 10. L has coordinates -8, 6. Okay. The one that's missing, we're just going to call X and Y. see if you can write the correct equation for X and see if you can write the correct equation for Y. Hey, oh, thanks. Let's see if you can write the correct equation. Thank you.
Not forgetting us to add some year to hanging us like a one. Then I called her on myself and can you get me the rest of them for the year? So she's working on.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Cool beans, cool beans. Okay, can anybody tell me the equation for X? Oh, what is it equal? -5, yeah. So if you put plus -8, that's fine. When you're adding a negative, it's just subtraction. So that should be your X equation. What's your Y equation? Super close, but not close enough. So what's the equation for Y? Equals 10. Because you're using all your Y's, the middle is where you end up. So I'm ending up at 10, so that's what it should be equal to. So try to undo your denominator by multiplying by 2. Ten is the midpoint, so that's going to be the answer to your equation. So you're always doing endpoint plus endpoint divided by 2 equals the middle. So you should try to multiply by 2. You're going to bring down the numerator. And then you're using, it's like one-step equation, so you're either adding or subtracting to both sides. What'd you get? Good. Try number 8. Oh, it's not. We're skipping number 11. We only got 3 more problems. And then you can use the rest of the class to work on your assignment, so that way you don't have to do it at home. So I multiply by 2, multiply by 2. So you get Y plus 6 equals 20. And you should -6 minus 6. So try to set up number 8. When you draw your picture, it's a little different, but it's literally the same exact process. Your picture might just look like opposite, but it's fine. It's literally the same thing. Don't freak out. Drawing your pictures didn't help you. Along with things, just drawing your pictures. So can anybody tell me my X equation for number 8? So you could say X plus 5 over 2 equals -1. Or, yeah, that's fine. Or you could say 5 plus X. X plus 5 and 5 plus X are the same thing. As long as X and 5 are being combined, it doesn't matter. And this is what I meant by like, it might look a little wonky because you're missing coordinate points on the other side, but it's the same thing because either way you're adding them together. And then your Y, you could do Y plus 6 or 6 plus Y because either way you're adding them together, it does not matter. Your Y ends up at 3. And then you're going to multiply by the denominator. Subtract 5. Nope. Yes. And then over here, I'm going to multiply by 2, same thing. And this one, people freak out when they get this number as an answer. They're like, it can't be. It can be. What is the answer for this one? 0. People get stressed when they get 0. 0's on a graph. It is fine. So -7, 0. Okay, so the last two examples that we're going to do, because once again, we're skipping number 11. These are technically old. It's technically a review of things that we've done before, okay? So number 9 says if P is the midpoint of segment XY, XP is 8x minus 2, and PY is 12x minus 30, find the value of X. And you're like, oh my God, what is happening? Draw a picture, okay? Even if it's just a small little sketch, it will help you. So I'm just going to draw a little picture. What are my two end points? X and Y. And then it says P is the midpoint, so I'm going to put P in the middle. Boop. Okay. And then I'm going to put this on my graph. So it says XP is 8x minus 2. And then it says PY is 12x minus 30. Now, these are not coordinate points. So we're not using the distance formula. We can't use the midpoint formula because they require coordinate points. What am I going to do if P is the midpoint of XY, and I know these two pieces are those? We don't have coordinate points. We can't use the distance formula. Slope. We're not using slope. They'd be equal because they're congruent pieces. If I know that it's the midpoint, I know it's in the middle. So I know this piece, whatever this piece is, it has to be equal to this piece. So this is what we did when we did segment addition postulate. We're going to equal them to each other because they are congruent to each other. So I can literally just say 8x minus 2 equals 12x minus 30. And then you get to pick, do you want to move the 30 or do you want to move the 2? The 2? Okay, they said the 2. You could move the 30. Either way, you're going to get the same answer. So take a second, try to solve this. If you want to move the 2, if you want to move the 30, I'm going to move the 2. You move whatever you want. You're going to get the same answer. When you're combining 30 and 2, it is not 32, which is what half y'all would put. It's -30 plus 2. So what is it? -28. And then, yeah. And then I'm dividing. So x equals 7. Because this says find the value of x, I'm done. I don't have to plug it back in. The last problem, take a second, try number 10. You will have to plug it back in. So take a minute and then we're done with our notes. Yeah. Do you know the whole length? In the end, to find FH, because that's what you're thinking, like, to find FH, yes, you will have to add them together. But to solve for X, because you're going to do that first, you can't add them because you don't know the people. Yes. Good. Now finish. You're finding FH.
So.
Yes. But you're not adding them together. This is going to be where they're equal together. But yeah, you'll have to
Okay,
plug it
so
back
I
in.
would like write this kind of on this.
And then you'll plug it back in next week. That's good. You're on the last set.
and we'll first divide both sides. And then you'll plug it back in to get the final point. Let's get plug back in.
Where?
48 by the 16 something. Well, because it says find FH. So FH represents the whole line. And so you're gonna have to plug it back in here, so I plug it back in, and then add them. That's good. So now you can start working on this ones. We're gonna skip number 12 and number 16. No, we're skipping 12. We're skipping 16. Because this is technically, if you draw this how ER represents the whole length, this is how the length, so you have to have this plus 43. That's making it so.
I asked two guys.
So what do you end up getting for 10? What do you get X value for 10? 3. So you should get X equals 3, and you have to find FH, which is the whole thing. Okay, so what do you have to do? Into one of them? For one of them. And then is that the answer? Yes. Okay, because whenever you plug it back in, if you plug it back into both, then what do you call it? You got to add them because it wants the whole thing. Or you could plug it into one and technically double it. Because you know that whatever this value is also going to be the same because they're congruent. So you could plug it into both, add them together, or you could plug it into one and multiply by 2 because they're going to be the same length because it's a midpoint because it cuts it in half. So they have to be the equal size. So what's the final answer? 134. Nice. Genius. So smart. For the homework, so the paper from yesterday, you did the front part of this. You can now do the back part of it, but we're gonna skip 2 problems. So take out yesterday's classwork. We're gonna cross out 2 of the problems, and then hopefully you can just do it right now and get it done, and then that way you don't have anything to do at home. So take out the homework from or like this paper, which is technically number 5, 1.3 classwork. The front was distance formula and midpoint formulas. Because you were supposed to do the front last night. On the back, we're gonna cross out number 12, and you can cross out number 16. So those 2 you can skip, and then you can spend the rest of class. You have plenty of time to just do them now. And that way you don't have to do them at home. Talk to the people at the table. Make sure you guys are getting the same answers. If you have questions, let me know. Make sure you read the directions. The directions are the same directions for like that same grouping. So 10 and 11 have the same directions. The directions are find the missing endpoints. So read that. It applies to both questions. Okay. So your pictures will kind of look the same with different numbers.